Welcome back. President Trump is denying a report this morning that White House advisor Elon Musk will receive a Pentagon briefing today on U.S. military plans for a potential war with China. Trump posted this on Truth Social. Quote, "The fake news is at it again, this time the failing New York Times. They said incorrectly that Elon Musk is going to be briefed on any potential war with China. How ridiculous," writes the president. "China will not even be mentioned or discussed in the meeting. How disgraceful it is that the discredited media can make up such lies. Anyway, the story is completely untrue," writes President Trump. The president followed up again this morning, writing this: "Their fake concept for this story is because Elon does some business in China, that he is very conflicted and would immediately go to top Chinese officials and spill the beans." Following up on that, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth also posted on X denying this report, initially in the New York Times, then written by the Wall Street Journal. And Hegseth says, confirming Musk will go to the Pentagon, but that, quote, "this is not a meeting about top secret China war plans. It's an informal meeting about innovation, efficiencies, and smarter production. Gonna be great," writes Defense Secretary Hegseth. Montana Senator Steve Daines is in Beijing this morning. He's set to talk trade with a Chinese senior leader tomorrow. He'll become the first U.S. politician in Trump's second term to publicly sit down with a top CCP official. The president could be meeting with Xi Jinping in June of this year. Joining me now is Michigan Congressman John Moolenaar. He is the chairman of the House Select Committee on China. Mr. Chairman, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Maria. Good to see you this morning.
First off, your reaction to this story. The Wall Street Journal, in its piece this morning, writes, "Musk set to receive top secret briefing on U.S. war plans for China." The Journal writes, "The meeting underscores the cross-cutting interests Musk has as a senior advisor to President Trump with a powerful and expansive role in the new administration. It could give him, the head of Tesla, which relies on China for car production, and of SpaceX, a U.S. defense contractor, access to sensitive military secrets unavailable to business competitors." Again, President Trump says this is all wrong and not true. Your reaction?
Well, first of all, let me just say that I think it's important that we think about our defense industrial base, and the best thing we can do to deter a war with China is what Ronald Reagan used to say is peace through strength. And I believe President Trump is following that same direction. Elon Musk is an innovator. He's someone who has led in space. He's led in all sorts of innovative technologies. If he can help us strengthen our industrial base, defense industrial base, to deter war with China, that would be fantastic. I have no idea what was going to be discussed in the meeting, but the bottom line is this: whenever someone gets a briefing, a classified briefing, they get the briefing to the level of their clearance, and then they are responsible to safely guard that information. And I trust that whoever is briefing any person in the Pentagon will recognize that, and there will be accountability for that. So Elon Musk is going to help with identifying ways that our military can be stronger and more efficient. And I totally support that.
Yeah, and Elon has done an excellent job in terms of identifying where the waste is. But, Congressman, we have to mention this because you know better than anyone the kind of behavior that we've seen from Communist China. They try to lure in American influencers, whether you're a government official, the head of a major corporation, whoever you are that has major influence. They lure those people in to try to steal information. Walk us through some of the tactics that Communist China has used to get information about America to try to overtake the United States as the #1 superpower.
Well, if there's one word that describes it, Maria, it's leverage. They will use every bit of leverage that they have, whether it's over a business. You know, we met with people in the film industry who would never put a villain, a CCP-affiliated villain, in their movies because they were afraid that their movie wouldn't be shown in China and they would be blacklisted. So we can see this across the board. Businesses, universities, they leverage students in America. They've tried to leverage our own military through bribes. So they are very aggressive in this area, both in a covert way as well as different cyber security hacks. We've had Salt Typhoon, Volt Typhoon, where they actually pre-positioned devices in our infrastructure, which is really cyber warfare when you consider these are civilian infrastructure. So they are very aggressive, and it's important that we be vigilant.
Right.
One of the reasons I'm so adamant about the TikTok divestiture is that's a national security risk. We have a law in place that will protect us from the abuse of the Chinese Communist Party. It's important that we go forward with that.
So what do you want to see happen then with TikTok?
I want to see a full divestiture, no involvement from ByteDance, which is the Chinese owner, and make sure that the algorithm is something that they don't have access to. They don't have access to Americans' data. They can't profile Americans. And we can continue to have TikTok used in America, but no involvement of the Chinese Communist Party.
Understood. And what's the timing on that? When will we know whether or not we have an American company to actually make that investment?
Well, I know President Trump, Vice President Vance, they are working on this. I know the deadline they've set is coming up, early April. And there are a number of people who are bidding. But the problem is this. ByteDance, the Chinese Communist Party affiliate, is not wanting to sell. And so they are going to resist this every step of the way. So It's going to come to a negotiated end.
And now they're also trying to resist the president's plans for the Panama Canal. So there's that. But look, I think what I hear you saying is that Communist China would not think twice about trying to trick Elon Musk into giving them information about any war plans or military plans. But the United States is not stupid. They're not exactly going to put all these war plans in front of anyone so that they can actually be vulnerable to the CCP. And I do believe President Trump knows exactly who his customer is in Xi Jinping and Communist China. As much as he likes to tell us, oh, he's my friend and I have a great relationship, he knows what the CCP is trying to do. In fact, the president just sanctioned a Chinese oil company and its terminal for purchasing and storing Iranian crude oil. Here we have more evidence that China is working with Iran, Mr. Chairman. State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce released this statement. These sanctions are being imposed pursuant to President Trump's maximum pressure campaign to drive Iran's oil exports, including to China, to zero. China is by far the largest importer of Iranian oil. Meanwhile, the FBI is offering $15 million for any information on Chinese national Emily Lee. She and 3 others are accused of smuggling U.S. drone weapons to Iran, Mr. Chairman. So they have not slowed down their theft of our intellectual property, particularly as it relates to weaponry, by any means.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's important to note that President Trump is taking action. He is holding them accountable, and there are consequences for this behavior. So often in the last several years, we haven't had consequences when they've hacked us or when they've acted aggressively. The spy balloon went across our country. There were no consequences. So in this case, President Trump is taking swift action. At the same time, he's reaching out to build relationships, to look at areas where we can work together. But it's ultimately peace through strength, trust but verify, and make sure that they know that we are prepared for war with the event that we want to have peace.
Yeah, I mean, look, President Trump issued a memorandum restricting Chinese investments in the U.S. This is his America First investment policy. And I spoke with the Treasury Secretary, Scott Betson, about it on this program. Watch.
All options are available, and let me tell you a couple of things. So here at Treasury, we have something called CFIUS. That's for inbound investment. The United States welcomes foreign capital from abroad, especially from our allies, but we need to screen for bad actors. What we are doing now is we are also doing outbound screening, led by the several leaders in the Senate, in the House, and Treasury is assisting this effort, and we will make sure that our outbound investment doesn't turn around and get used against us, whether it's chips, whether it's our funding, and that funding then could end up in this big buildup that the Chinese are doing of their military. So we're going to examine everything. President Trump has made it clear that in the America First order that everything needs to be examined with the relationship with China.
So, Congressman, what does this mean for you as the lead congressman, the chairman of the House Select Committee? What does this mean for Congress when you see this America First investment policy? Are Chinese stocks vulnerable to be pulled from U.S. exchanges? Do you believe that U.S. investors should rein it in when it comes to investing in Chinese companies because they may be tied to the Chinese military?
Yeah, I think the guidance, the memo that the secretary was talking about was a huge step forward. It's giving all of us in the Congress, as well as the financial world, guidance. Congress needs to follow up with legislation that codifies that and strengthens it in consultation with the Treasury Secretary. And he and his team have been helping us with this. There will be legislation in both the House and the Senate working on this. We can't continue to fund entities that are affiliated with the Chinese military or that use forced labor or human rights abuses. We need to be sure that American either taxpayer dollars or our capital markets are not funding our adversary, which ultimately seeks our demise. And so I think this is a tremendous step forward, and Congress will respond accordingly. We had legislation in the past, Congress. We got it through part way, but we got to get it done this session.
Really well said. Congressman, real quick before you go, what is your reaction to these new upsets coming from China about the president's plan to take back the Panama Canal? You know that BlackRock did a deal with Li Ka-shing in Hong Kong, that BlackRock is going to buy all those ports. That includes 2 ports that operate around the Panama Canal. And now John Lee, the head of Hong Kong, is saying, wait a minute, we don't like this bullying by an adversary. They're trying to stop that deal.
Well, let's just be frank. You know, Hong Kong is no longer the free financial center that it used to be. It's completely controlled by the Chinese Communist Party, and they're going to push back on anything that diminishes their influence. And they've been very aggressive around the world through their Belt and Road Initiative. I was so proud of Secretary of State Rubio. They decided in Panama no longer to be part of the Belt and Road Initiative, and now to see the Trump administration work at securing our interests in the Panama Canal. I think it's a tremendous step forward, although it doesn't surprise me that the CCP would be pushing back.
Yeah, Congressman, it's great to have this discussion with you. I hope you'll come back soon. I'll tell you, you make such a good point. I remember so much in my career traveling to Hong Kong. It was one of the major international business hubs of the world, like London, like New York. No longer at all, no. Congressman. You're absolutely right. Great to see you this morning, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Good
All
to
right,
be with
Congressman John Moolenaar joining us today in Michigan. We'll be right back. Stay with us.